Good day, my friends. Welcome to this, our conspiratorium grand jury of sorts. You know, something is very wrong when the person asking the questions, good questions, is treated like the criminal. And the people sitting on a mountain of money and a mountain of influence are treated like fragile victims who must never be disturbed, must never be unsettled. That is where we are right now. Not with the FBI, not with some faceless agency, but with people who told you they were the rebels, they were the outsiders, they were the fighters for truth. And the only one acting like an actual dissident right now is Candace Owens. And I've studied this carefully, as have you, and the obvious, I believe, is glaring. From the very beginning, she did what grown-ups are supposed to do. She waited. She held back judgment on Erika Kirk as a human being, as a mature adult. She acknowledged the understandable grief, the shock, the transition, just the dealing with this, the trauma, the passion of this horror. She said, well, many of us said quietly, let us see what Erika is. Let us watch. Let us listen. Let us collect the evidence before we decide. That's not cruelty. That's maturity. That's sapience. That's intelligence. That's what human beings do. But then came the interviews and the tour, the soft chairs and the sympathetic hosts and the very seemingly rehearsed language about conspiracy theories, air quotes, and here's more, and noise, and the I do not have time. Okay, all right. And suddenly the picture changed. Not because Candace Owens shifted, but because Erika finally spoke, and what she said did not match what many of us see and feel. And I think that's the point of this. Candace did something very, very important. She separated the human from the job. Now, as a widow, Erika has every right to grieve, to cry, to keep certain things private however she wants. As a CEO and chairman of a massive political machine sitting on staggering sums of donor money, she does not have the right, I respectfully submit, to hide behind grief every time someone asks a basic question, because there's going to be a commingling of the roles. Mother, grieving spouse, and then CEO. Now, those are two different roles. Maybe roles that should be obviously separated. Maybe there should be some kind of a firewall or something. But Candace is one of the few people saying that out loud. And it's not at all cruel, and it makes sense. The burial issue is a perfect example. On a human level, Candace agreed. A family should have something sacred. Sacred, the world does not pick apart. Makes sense. But then we remember who made the funeral public. Well, this is fact. Who decided to film herself over the casket? Who chose to broadcast an image of her husband's body, his corpse, his remains, to show that to millions? That was not the public intruding. No. That was the public being invited in. Great. Thankfully. Once you open that door, you can't slam it in the faces of the very people who wept with you upon the invitation and gave you their trust and their money because they were involved in this. And by the way, as you know, Charlie was very, very important to a lot of people. Not obviously in a different, realm, but he was loved. And if you recall correctly, and I remember, there were people who kept telling me that they couldn't believe that their children, youngsters, high school and college, were absolutely devastated, and that parents didn't even know. Charlie was immane in terms of his impact. And Candace's point is simple. You don't get to be private on Monday and global on Tuesday, depending upon what's convenient. You can't publish your most intimate moments for sympathy and fundraising, and then tell people they're wicked for asking where this man they loved is laid to rest. That's not how public life works. And Candace is brave enough to say it. And sometimes, as you well know, saying the obvious is the bravest thing you can do. Then there's the time excuse. Quote, I don't have time. It sounds reasonable. It does, until you watch the bookings. As Candace says, prime Fox hits, big radio, high-profile town halls, cross-country trips for ceremonial moments that have really nothing to do with stabilizing or attempting to stabilize Turning Point USA. So it's not about time. It's about priority. The priority has been elite circles, ostensibly. Big donor tables, glossy media moments. The priority has not been speaking clearly and concretely to the regular people who built this brand, his brand, your brand, from the ground up, and who are now deeply uneasy. You have to address this. Candace is 100% correct. And she's not cruel to Erica. She's not cruel. She's respectful. She acknowledges the pain. But she, understandably and I think wisely, refuses to let emotion become a shield against transparency. That's exactly what every honest person should demand. You agree? I mean, you can cry, you can break, you can talk about your children. Understandable. But at some point, you must answer basic questions about money, statements, timelines, contradictions. A CEO, which is this status she enjoys right now, cannot simply say, stop, and expect the world to salute or to say stop at irregular intervals. And then in the middle of all this, we have Tim Pool. What's that about? A man who made a career selling himself as the skeptical outsider. Now shouting at the audience like some kind of a crazed hall monitor who caught you talking in the back of the class. How dare you? Using, I'm sorry, maybe I'm old-fashioned, the vilest of things you don't say to any woman ever. Okay? You don't. A man doesn't do that. An adult doesn't do this. There are some words which are frankly, the misogynistic version of the N-word. Okay? And watching him go after Candace with this strange, absolutely schizoid, overheated energy feels almost sad. It feels like someone who can't stand that maybe he's no longer the center of the internet's attention. Maybe he has to do something to reclaim it. I don't know. We can specify. We can remain skeptical about that. Now, Candace questions the narrative. Tim explodes. Candace lays out concerns. Tim moralizes. Candace acts like an investigator, and Tim acts like security for a building he doesn't even own. You know, you can feel the jealousy, the desperation for relevance. It's like, why am I not included in this? I mean, he is not without point. He's without some validity to whatever his point is. But this, Tucker's weighing in now about the various concerns with Theo Vaughn, which I think makes sense. He does it in a much more, I think, respectful and adult and sober type of with a different methodology. But yet, even in criticizing him, we don't have to hate him. This is Tim. You can say plainly that he seems lost. That he's chosen to attack the woman doing the hard work instead of joining her and pulling on the loose threads, joining her. But I don't want to spend it. That's very sad, very unfortunate, very embarrassing. So what has Candace actually done that is so terrible? Ask yourself this question, okay? Be honest. She's asked for explanations where the story doesn't line up. She's refused to pretend that a giant, well-funded organization is above scrutiny because it uses the right slogans or apothegms or aphorisms or bromides or labeling. She's reminded people that scientific inquiry and investigation and skepticism are not sins. Remember who you're talking to here. They are the very tools that solve crimes and expose corruption, and that every considerate and rational citizen should be able to employ whenever they want. You'd have to ask permission for this, all the while with the purpose of keeping power and the powerful in check. Now, Candace Owens' detractors, well, they say she's chasing clout. That's absurd. If she wanted the easy road, she would have linked arms with everyone in the club, nodded along in obeisance, told her audience to move on, cashed her checks, and slept beautifully, perfectly. Instead, she chose to walk into the buzzsaw, head on, and to be called names, to be smeared, to be libeled, to be defamed, to be isolated. That's not the move of a grifter. That's the move of someone who actually believes what she says. It's that simple. You know, we love to talk about the truth. We all want the truth. Well, the truth is this. Candace is doing what the state is supposed to be doing, what the media used to do, what law enforcement should be doing, what the so-called conservative movement promised. It promised to do this, to investigate, to question, to doubt official stories and narratives when they're incomplete, when they don't make any sense, to demand clarity and limpidity, to refuse to let grief and religious language be used as emotional blackmail, to protect institutions from honest oversight. That's exactly what's happening. And you, the Lidl Nation audience, members of the conspiratorium, of the clerisy, you are not passers-by in this. Oh, no. You are not passive consumers. You were the jury. In fact, you were the grand jury, as I alluded to before. You weigh the evidence. You pick apart the timelines. You remember who said what and when, and with what particular demeanor. You notice when someone hides behind the word family to put whole groups off limits. You know better. You remember the money raised. The money raised, not just raised, but raised in the name of a tragedy. And you ask if it matches the behavior you see because you're smart. And you know it, and I know it, and they know it. So here is what I want from you. In the comments in particular, I want your analysis. And they are great. Not just your applause, not your what strikes you as inconsistent. What detail never sat right with you? Where do you think Candace Owens made the strongest point? Where do you think she made the best point? And where may she be reaching? What about Tim Pool's reaction? Does it feel genuine? Does it feel like performance art? Does it feel like some kind of kabuki dance? Is it schmaltz? Is it nonsense? What would you ask Erika if you had 5 minutes and she couldn't walk away? What would you ask her? What are your thoughts? What are your suspicions? Your comments, your input are not an afterthought. They are the best part of this exercise we're in. They are a live cross-examination from you, the grand jury, from thousands of minds who have no contract to protect, no donor list to please. You are the ones who decide which narrative passes the smell test. And we do it all the time. Whether it's stories about 9/11 or about assassination narratives or whatever. And we do it unafraid, unabashed. You are the check on every influencer, every host, every organization, and every narrative, and every person who thinks that it can ride your emotions and your faith without ever respecting your intelligence. That's really the critical part about this. So tell me, dear friend, what do you find interesting? What do you find suspicious? What lines up with common sense? And what feels, if anything, like a manufactured script, performative? I read what you write. I learn from what you catch. You are the jury, the grand jury in this case. And your verdict, your indictment perhaps, is the only one that ultimately matters. Never forget that, my friends. So I ask you right now to think about what I've said, review this, let me know what your thoughts and comments are. And let's also think right now about what's the next step. What are we looking for? Is this going to be brushed under the rug? Do you believe the Tyler Robinson story? Do you believe the official story? Do you ever believe an official story? Is there one? Do you believe that the FBI and Kash Patel and others are acting consistent with the way we wish they would? I don't know, my friends. But what I do know is I want, first of all, to let you know how much I appreciate you being with us. I appreciate so much your thoughts and your comments. And what I would like you to do in the section, I've got some questions for you to answer to kind of get this thing going. I want you to comment as you see fit.